looking at the concept of anyone that does have an animal, to the ability that is homeless to actually come over to our shelter, and that we would vaccinate them and also spay them if necessary. So, you know, in the interests of the animals' health and welfare, but also in the interests of the greater community safety. So that's something we're going to be looking at.
David, this is probably a similar note to the last question, but since it's timely, I'll just throw it out here now. The question's about unsteady adults during the county work days. So Leo was talking a little bit about the evening operations, but this specific question is, how will employees be and feel safe while walking during their breaks and on lunch, that sort of thing?
Yeah, again, this is kind of new territory for many of us, and with an increased presence of the population, I think it is something that we've all experienced in the commercial areas of Auburn, but we haven't seen the kind of concentration we did last summer and fall here at the DeWitt Government Center. So again, I think we can certainly do some training. I thought that was an excellent idea about how do you effectively deal with somebody who's panhandling you and you prefer not to be. How do you identify people who have mental illness issues that are presenting in your personal space. And then again, I think there's a lot of walkers out here, and I see a lot of you doing it in 2s and 3s and 4s, and I think that obviously is a prudent practice so that you can still take advantage of this beautiful campus, but feel safe and secure while you're doing it. Beyond that, I think we'll look to the sheriff's office to, again, maintain a presence here so people feel like they have the kind of security they deserve when they're coming to and from work, but also on breaks and at the lunch hour.
First of all, let me say that as a donor to VOA, I have high confidence in your ability. I know you've been successful in other areas, and so I'm hoping you can bring some of that success here. A question I have is, when does the 90 days start and end? Well, obviously we can calculate the end, but when does it start? And then is this site being considered for any long-term solution? And then one of the things I'd like to point out, it kind of goes back to the question you were just addressing. As I want to address this from a department head who's had employees ask me questions about the circumstances. What we have, what has happened over almost the last year are patterns of behavior, and that is that the homeless population that stays here for any length of time recognizes the behavior of the county employees walking, and conversely, the walking employees have become familiar with the behavior and the behavior patterns of the homeless population. And so what I've been approached on by employees are having been solicited for money, for use of cell phones, and then also being subject to obscene gestures and that type of thing. And I think that if there's going to be a long-term solution here, we really need to examine that. We need to figure out how we're going to deal with that. And I'm wondering, when you say you're encouraging good behavior, if the part and parcel of that is they're going to have to, as they leave the shelter, they're going to permeate through the campus in different directions. And so I'm hoping that over time that will be addressed and looked at.
Okay, so let me start and then I'll hand it over to Leo. In terms of when are they going to open for business, we're estimating that it'll probably be around May 1st or so. There's probably about 6 weeks or so worth of work to be done to the building. So they have to prepare plans, get permits, get the contractors hired, and actually perform the work. So our working estimate is May 1st-ish. And then, as you point out, it'll be easy to kind of calculate from that point forward when the 90 days sunsets. Again, I think we're going to learn a lot during that 90-day pilot period. We're going to get, I think, some good feedback on an ongoing basis so that we can fine-tune the operations as we go. Our goal is to address the needs of this population, but assure the safety and security of our employees is foremost. So that was a big concern of our board. A lot of back and forth on that concern. We think this is a good temporary location. There's no commitment for this to be a long-term solution. And in fact, I know a number of us are awaiting anxiously the work of Dr. Marbut because he's got some ideas that are different than what we're going to be doing here on a near-term temporary basis. And so can't really foresee what the longer-term solution set might include. But at this point in time, nobody's viewing this as a permanent homeless shelter location.
Yeah. Let me just address again the message that we will be delivering to anybody who seeks shelter here is that they need to respect the businesses and the employees that are working on this campus. That message is going to be delivered not only by us, but it will be delivered by those faith leaders who are doing other services in the community for this population. We are all buying into this as a way to change the homeless dynamic in Auburn. So that same message will be when St. Teresa's doing some feeding out of their property, they're going to be talking to the folks receiving services to make sure that they respect the broader community. Whether it's the Salvation Army doing the same thing with the folks receiving their services. They're all part of this Right Hand Auburn group. There's a variety of faith community leaders who will carry that very same message that I'm hearing from all of you in terms about whether it's panhandling and the like. And those folks that I would almost guarantee, I can't guarantee, I would almost hope that everybody who's regularly receiving shelter services from us will be compliant to those requests. Those who are not a part of this shelter program, I can't speak to that. They will be, and I'm not quite sure how many they number. They may be too active in whatever behaviors they're going on to actually come in for services. We hope not, but it's only 47 beds. If the population is over 100, we're not going to be able to have the whole homeless population in here. So for those 47, that message will be clear. You've got to respect this shelter, this program, this investment that the community is making. You've got to respect the people that work in this community. And so that's why I'm going to be very sensitive to those issues when they crop up. And if there's anybody who's taken advantage of the shelter, we can reinforce that message. For somebody who's not even coming into the shelter, I don't know how to communicate that, to be honest. So when we can influence it, we will.
Hello, my name is, and for maybe the last 10 or 12 years, we have used, my dog club and I have used for maybe an hour and a half once a week in the summertime when the days are long, that part of the B Avenue, B Street, First Street Park. And for years, it's been wonderful. It's always well maintained. And the last few years, there have been homeless people there. And for the prior 2 years, it was just a big area. We don't need much. We're not going to be there long, and we're fine. But this last year, the quality of our treatment has been awful. We get cat calls. We get dirty words. There's physical fighting amongst themselves. They come over and harass you. And it didn't used to be like that. And the sheriff's office will come by on regular routine patrols, stops and talks to them. They stop the fighting until he drives off, and then they start again. Is that part of B Avenue going to be homeless shelter here, homeless shelter there? Are we, I mean, is it going to be fixed so that it's only one area of homelessness? That area looks awful now. It's embarrassing to have people come from different counties to see our approved homeless area.
So right now, we do not prohibit camping or overnight usage of the grounds here at the DeWitt Government Center. So one of the things that's being looked at are a variety of approaches to address those kinds of issues. One of the things we'll learn is how many of the folks who have chosen to camp here are actually going to avail themselves of this temporary shelter where they can get food, showers, et cetera, and hooked up to services as well. And we're hopeful that through the next couple of months with the shelter open that the number of campers will decrease significantly. If it does not, then we have other issues that we're going to have to address and resolve, because I think we don't want to become the regional campground. And so we need to figure out, what's the right approach so that we can respect that this is public property, it's available for the public's use, but within reason and within limitations.
Tax Collector's Office. Thank you for having this forum. I think it's really important. And I was just wondering, I've heard the sheriff's office been mentioned a few times. Is there collaboration right now between the CEO and the sheriff to work with this homeless issue? And then also, kind of piggybacking remarks, don't we have any ordinances against loitering? I mean, I don't see any enforcement, especially on that B Avenue area. It's not pleasant to walk by there. Mm-hmm.